How are you thinking the EV landscape changes come January 20th?
Well, look, let's look at the big picture first. Some people are saying EV growth is slowing down. Nonsense. 1 out of 5 of all cars sold globally in 2024 will be electric or hybrid. So we're living in an EV world and it's just moving faster. That's 25% year over year growth, 17 million EVs sold globally. US, Canada, solid growth, about 12%. China, red hot at 40%. And the big stories, as you talked about, are kind of Tesla versus BYD, who's going to be the global leader. And then there's this other issue of US versus China and how are tariffs going to affect this. And what people have to remember, US has already slapped 100% tariffs on any Chinese car sold in the US, but that's virtually none. You got to ask the question, what happens if the Chinese slap 100% tariffs on US cars or automakers selling cars
Will that
in
happen?
China?
Do you think that's a high risk even for a Tesla?
Oh, look, whenever there are tariffs slapped on by one country or another, you've got to expect the other country to respond. The big question is it cars that are already made in that country or just cars that come from the US going to China? But the punchline is the same. There's a lot more US automakers selling cars into China than vice versa. So the US needs to be careful on this one.
And yet, we have seen vibes, or whether it be real political clout, driving Tesla's share price up and to the right ever since the results of the election. Has any of this China-US tension been priced in, do you think, Steve?
Well, I think people don't have their arms around it quite yet. So you've got to look at the Tesla share price, 76% growth since January 1 of this year. That's astonishing. The big question is, can Tesla keep it up? And I think it's going to be tough without getting some new products into the market. Tesla's auto growth this year, after roaring sales growth in 2021 and 2022, 51% and 70%. This year, it's darn near flat. So Tesla's got to get this newer, lower cost car into the market. There are new rumors that there's going to be a new sub $30,000 Model Q coming sometime in 2025. But we got to make sure that's real. So investors have to look at it. I think 25 is going to be a make or break year. It could see new heights if you can see a lower cost car coming out and the full self-driving improve, but it could also sink if they don't get a new car in the market, sales stay flat. That's going to scare people. Now,
as an investor though, Steve, as an investor, how hard has it been to read the tea leaves? Because we're trying to understand as to whether they're just going to cut costs of current models on the market and get us to some sort of sense of affordability, because Elon just signals time and time again he's more interested in the robo-taxi side, in the full self-driving side.
It's incredibly hard. I mean, share price going up 75% when sales are flat. I don't think anybody's ever seen anything like that before. What's going on? Kind of a bet on full self-driving, and probably a bigger bet on Musk's relationship with President Trump. What no one's talking about is, very quietly, the energy division looks like the saving grace for Tesla. 75% year over year growth. The other thing investors have to get their arms around is auto companies aren't just auto companies anymore. They're also energy companies too. And it's a whole new world. You got to pay attention.
Got to pay attention to the politics involved in it. This week, of course, we saw that, again, California is really going to be focusing in on ensuring EV adoption, Steve, where you sit. But also, we've got a news story around the potential unionization, let's call it, subtly being done over with Rivian. We understand the UAW has reached a kind of secret deal with Rivian to make unionization easier as and when it becomes a profitable company. How much do you think that's a key area, the labor side of things, for the EV space?
Well, look, the labor side's huge because labor costs are going up. This is one of the things that's plagued GM and Ford for years. And what's interesting is Musk is great at pulling out all the stops, making things go faster than any other automaker, but he still has to deal with unions. And he may be the wealthiest guy in the world, but that's not going to impact how well he wins union battles. German workers potentially out on strike soon, precisely when he's trying to catch up for Q4 sales. So it's going to be interesting to see, can Tesla's auto sales increase this year? He cannot show year over year growth. Gosh, that's going to be a tough one to sell to shareholders. We'll see.